third, fourth, and fifth graders who do their student-led conferences.
Yes.
They do it themselves. And that is powerful. It's powerful. And thank you again, Steph. You're wonderful. You know I love it.
Thank you, Dr. Sale. And we thank you for that beautiful post banner back there. Ooh, thank you. Thank you.
All right, it's time for public. Okay, first of all, you don't have to be quiet and stay unless you're really that interested. I mean, you're welcome to stay. I'm just like getting the easy way out.
Two people have to stay. Two people.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Stay home. Stay home. Bye, Jim. Bye, JJ. Bye, JJ. Bye, JJ. Dr. Southman, okay, the board welcomes public participation and asks that speakers please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Speakers may offer objective comments on school operations and programs that concern them. The board will not permit any expression of personal complaints or defamatory comments about the Board of Education personnel and students or students, or against any person connected with the Danbury Public School System. Is there?
Where is
I'm sorry. Is there anyone that would like to speak? None? Nobody. Are we sure? Okay. Moving right along. Consent calendar. There.
That the Board of Education approves the items on the consent calendar exhibits 15-02 through 15-06 as recommended.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Gladys Cooper. Is there any discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Okay. Moving along. We have an employee representative? No. Do we have any student representatives? No. Good. Here we go. I mean, that's not good. It's constant. It's good. All righty, action items. Oh, we have a presentation. I mean, good. We don't. Yeah, those people in row 1 are okay. Let's go. Motion.
That the Board of Education approve the 2015-2016 school calendar in accordance with 15-07.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
I'm sorry? Oh,
I'll second.
Mr. Janelli's seconded. All right, well, let's all try to speak into the microphone, okay? Because we have someone new. A few more minutes. Let's be kind. I'm doing it. You all get to do it. All right. It's been seconded. All in favor? Oh, any discussion?
I did have a quick question.
Oh, okay. Into the microphone.
Are we doing early release day?
No, we agreed on this. They're just the days that so parents can plan. I'm going to come back and get some feedback on that, and then we'll decide on early release. The only thing I think early release here, maybe the parent conferences. I got to look at that. But these are just days for planning purposes. When we started, one of the major holidays for parents.
And then if there are, we put right back, like we did on this.
Yeah, what'll happen, let's say we want to do, yeah, we can go those Tuesdays. We'll have the Tuesday meetings, it's whether or not we'll do a dismissal.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the only difference that we have there. But this permits planning.
Okay, yes, I have another question. Ann Rose.
Yeah, I'm not sure I was looking at the correct calendar, so I just was looking to see if I was, but can I just have clarification on something with the I know in moving forward, there's these teacher evaluation days that are contractual, correct? You have 2 days during the
They're
early release, they're like two,
Yes.
they're,
there are 2 days that will be used for teacher evaluation. That's correct. 2 release days.
2 release days, and that's contractual, correct?
I want to say no. Technically, is that an MOA? It's contractual. I'm not going to break it. Let me give you a quick
Yeah, I
history.
don't know the answer.
Okay,
So
so
you
we
know,
don't, so
she'll have to look that up. But I know when they put the teacher evaluation system in some years back prior to this one, there were 3 half days that were used for
Right.
that. Way back there. And when we decided at some point there was a need for 3, the teachers are still requested 2, and we stayed with the 2. It became even more relevant with the new teacher evaluation system that we keep those 2, and I agree with that. But I can't say there was a contract. I'm looking into it, so it's what it is. I don't think it is.
I
Oh, one
was
second.
not sure there was a signed MOA on that. I'm wondering if it was just practice. I would have to go, oh, sorry, I would have to go, I think I need to
Hold over and take a look, because I don't recall off the top of my head that you need to sign the MOU about it. I think it's just a practice.
So that was just like a gentleman's agreement, if you will, between, if you will, that we were giving the teachers this release time because of the new teacher evaluation system.
Correct.
I guess what I would like to know in moving forward, because in the past couple of calendars, we've had those days in the calendars, and it was typically on 2 Fridays. Throughout, there's one more in the beginning of the year, and then one more towards like Marchish, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, and it was more than just an hour release, it was the 2-hour release day. It was like what you considered like your half day or whatever, the
It
12.
was the PD schedule, which was
Right.
the traditional more than 1 hour.
Right.
Right.
So I guess what I'd like is clarification as to if that is actually contractual. And the next clarification is, at some point, we're in the process of teacher evaluation, and it's not new information anymore. And I'm even speaking as a teacher, okay, I've been in this now 3-4 years. I'm just wondering whether we need to continue to give those hours of instructional time up for something that I feel is, we've kind of worked through some of the kinks, and yeah, maybe some things are still changing and happening, but I'm not so sure, I'll tell you personally, if I feel that I want to continue to give up that instructional time. Unless it's contractual, then I'm going to keep quiet.
I can tell you it's not written in the green book that constitutes the contract. But I don't, I can speak with reasonable certainty that there's not a signed MOU about it, but I wouldn't need to go much. I think it's always been an agreement.
I just want
to throw out there that it was not instructional. It was not for the teachers to be instructed in the new evaluation, that was the time was put aside. It was to actually run their program. But I can't remember words, but it's actually to do the work. It wasn't to learn about what was school time.
This came up during teacher eval, and Bob was a representative. I don't know if he has something to add.
Okay, at the meeting there, this is the first year that everyone but the secondary schools are on the evaluation, right? So basically, the thing that came up at the meeting was the teachers and like psychologists, social workers and so forth. The subcommittee was formed. That group still has to come up with, from what I gather, the evaluation plan, because what they do is not necessarily fit in exactly with, Marzano's 64 items, or what you want to call it, and so that will be worked on. But so basically, we're at the point where you have elementary and most all the elementary school teachers on the first, and then feeling at the my feeling. I say, like, you know what? At some point, and then we. The one thing that they felt the big gap was in these other areas. They just you know, they just have to work on that. So that's pretty much what the teachers' evaluation committee will be looking at, I believe, from now on. But the feedback and so forth and what's going on now, there's a lot of anxiety among the people who are being evaluated the first time. It's the only way I can put it, and so forth. So personally, I think, you know, that there is really a need for that, but the new thing that came up was that. Okay, so I'm just going to give you my report of it.
And every teacher's feel anxiety with the new
This, like I said, it's the first go around.
You, based on how your students are performing, but I was looking for more clarification as to whether or not those were contractual days, and whether or not, and what was the agreement as to how long this would continue.
I agree with Kim. I know it's not there, but it is.
There for professional development.
Yes.
The 2 days, if we put in the calendar here, will not have any PD attached to it. They are simply for their own setting their IHDs, using the data, doing that work. The other days that the board has in there are actually days that the full days where we do PD. The Tuesdays that we have that you allowed us to do are PD days, just so you know that. But we need to come back and talk about the whole concept of release, the Tuesdays, and that would be part of the conversation at that time. And I think we plan on coming back, talk to Bill, get some feedback. We got to talk about how to get feedback on things, and then come to you sometime in probably February, March, with the follow-up 2-year calendar. Remember, we have to follow the calendar year for next September for district, but not the release dates. Those are our decisions. Just, those are ours, internal decisions.
Without those early release dates.
That's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any
And then if we add those, so you're gonna come back to us with those added days in, and then we'll have to revote on it.
Yeah, I mean, the way we're going to do it this time, because we said we get feedback before we get it in here, we would do that. I would wait, except parents are trying to plan. That's why I think the board needs to approve this. Because this will not change if you put the time in or not. This will not change.
All right.
Anybody else? Seeing no one, all in favor? All in favor, I'm sorry. We'll try one more time. All in favor? Aye. Sorry. Okay. Any noes? Any abstentions? Carried, motion passes. Okay, we're going to the superintendent's report, or as I like to call it, Sal's
Yes, budget process. Joe? That was easy.
Joe?
Here we go again.
The workers. Evening, everybody.
Good job.
There you go. You know, quickly, we just began our budget, beginning or finalizing our budget process, depending on where we sit. We're currently pulling all our staffing levels, projections. The board will see, obviously, we just started releasing enrollment projections going forward. So we're trying to begin to calculate and tabulate all those pieces of data. We did get our initial preliminary health insurance renewals. You know, the board should know we're probably looking around 5% or so on our health insurance renewal number, which actually is a pretty favorable number for next year. We're currently looking at all staffing levels. The plan is to have a finance meeting January 20th at 8 a.m. We'll be discussing probably a fairly detailed look at some projections on where the budget sits and where we think we're going to present to the full board on the 28th of January on the base straight now. And then the board will adopt at the February 13th meeting, has to be on Mark's desk for February 16th. So that's what we said on timeline and dates.
So just 2 meetings
Um,
for the committee?
Finance meeting, and then we'll go to the full board, and then.
And we thought we'd have, on the 20th, will be the first meeting. We're going to have that at 8 in the morning. And we'll see how we progress from there. If there's any problems, we'll then have another meeting. We'd like to do is to make a presentation to the full board. We're following the board, what's it, the 28th? 28th, I think it is. What I would like to say, when you present the budget, as you have in the past, do it the same way where you're going to have like a maintenance part and the, as I call it, the wish list as well. Okay.
Our big cost driver is the 7th grade at West Side for global studies. It's approximately about $500,000 worth of additional staff that is added on for that 7th grade plus additional support. So that'll be one of our main drivers of the budget.
Okay, question. I'm going to assume that they have the same committee, they being the city council.
Yeah.
I don't mean to debate. And so would you like them at your meeting on the 20th, or would you like to wait for them until you present to the board?
You should
And bring
invite
them in that one.
the board presentation on the 28th.
And then we'll have time, we'll have time then to answer their questions?
Yeah, absolutely, because the board will then,
Then we'll have nothing else on the agenda that night.
we'll have that, and obviously the board will adopt the 13th, so there's plenty of time to address council questions at that point.
Okay.
I would tend to disagree. I think it would be good if we had them participate, invite them to our 8 o'clock meeting. Because rather than be blindsided later on and scurry and wait for a whole lot of information where they say they didn't know or stuff, if whomever is going to be assigned to us is part of it, then hopefully it'll be part of the process, be able to take it back to their committee. And it would
Well,
certainly
yes,
help you.
we have enough experience to know how many meetings they'll people
Well,
actually attend.
it's irrelevant, but I think it's courteous on our part to extend it out.
Yeah, the 20th, you won't have a line item budget at that point. I'm going to be doing a high level,
Right.
as I've done similar, the big moving pieces in the budget, the health insurance, the salary raises, contractual obligations, those sort of things.
Well, that'll all be ready for the 20th, so I'll invite them to.
20th, and then we'll do the formal presentation as we did similar for on the PowerPoint for the 28th.
Okay.
Sit on both chairs.
Gladys.
My only question is, we can't pick another time versus 8 o'clock in the morning, 9 o'clock, or, one afternoon or evening?
I think for me, 8 was better for me and for Rich Hawley only because it interfered later with commitments for business, for work, which was kind of tough for me at this particular time of year. So I think Hawley had the same thing. Because sometimes you extend later than, if you start at 9, it goes into 10 or 10:30, and then I'm losing a good part of the morning getting back to
Okay.
work.
And your schedule, I'm not trying to be rude, is the schedule tied up also in the afternoon, where maybe we will have more board members attend the meetings, for those that want to come first, in the afternoon or evening, 6:30, 7 o'clock? I'm just trying to juggle, some things around here. And I know there's a lot of meetings that have happened last year at 8 o'clock in the morning. But I'm just trying to see, is it possible that at some point, and I know everyone has to make a living, is there any way that we can look at a different time that if we have another meeting versus 8 o'clock in the morning?
I certainly think that's a valid consideration.
Yes.
Okay. And it's not set in stone, it's just, this one, we thought for convenience and for the timing, it would be easier. Sometimes in the afternoon, other people have other things to do, not necessarily those people that work, but personal things to do. And then in the evening comes another problem where you sort of worn out from the day. So the brain's not functioning too well.
So yeah,
But
we'll do
it's
that.
not set in stone, Gladys, so whatever would be convenient, you know, for the majority.
Just let us know before the 20th, Mr. Chairman, okay? Any other discussion on this? Seeing none? I don't have to, we're not voting. I've lost my mind. Some finds it, but no. Go, Dr. Gasparelli.
Yeah, Joe, we worked with, because of the building project that we have, Peter Crowder came in and we had him certify some of the data projections. And Joe, you spoke to him recently.
Yeah, I did. Peter Prada, who the board has used for many years to do enrollment projections, we did partake in a new enrollment update to get, in a sense at least, where the district was going on our overall growth. And as the board will see, I mean, it's a very detailed document that Peter does. I mean, really to go back, and it sounds kind of bad just going to the back appendix, it really lists, in a sense, where our growth is happening. You'll see particularly the secondary level. The high school currently is at 2,900 students, and the growth up is actually finishing about 3,450. So again, I always say, assuming Peter's half wrong, you're still looking at like
Did you see 3,400
3,400.
at the high school?
High school. They're currently at 29,803.
Oh, okay.
But so that's adding, roughly 500 additional students. I always kind of joke, even Peter's half wrong, you're still looking at 250 additional students heading up there. So it clearly supports the additions that the mayor's talking about at the high school level. You'll also see, too, the overall district growth continues to be on that 1% movement ahead. It does seem like we're flattening out some just at much higher levels. If you're looking at some of the elementary numbers, I mean, the watermark is much higher when you stay there. So it was a pretty interesting document that we did get. And this is just, again, district level numbers, but they are still significant, still showing growth where other districts are not, as we know the surroundings are all declining.
I know, it's just, it's wonderful. Alrighty, thank you very much, Joe. Does anyone have any questions of Joe on the enrollment? Okay, seeing none. Dr. Pasquarella, special education.
Special education tuition, we've been working, Debbie is not here, we talked with her the other day. The tuition has been just rising, our out-of-district placement are rising. Danbury's in a situation as other towns, there are what we call no-nexus towns that are placed through DCF, which is a state-mandated program. The board of ed here has no decision in the placement. You simply sign the placement. And that has inflated greatly to us, where it has really brought us to some concern. Not begrudging programs for the youngsters, none of us are talking about that. So we don't participate in the discussion. It's just a mandated program. And we've had a very high, unusually high number.
We have, the board's outplacement on the private tuitions is significantly higher this year. Actually, as of right now, about $400,000 over our current budget amount for special ed tuitions.
That's good too.
I'm not, once I do the financials at the next meeting, I'll go into a little more detail on that, but we are monitoring pretty closely. We have had just even in the past month, like 2 or 3 DCF placements that have come to the district that is easily $75,000 to $100,000 between those folks. So it is a significant area. It really hasn't been a big area for the board, as we typically do see some growth in our tutor population, but we have now seen, in a sense, I call it, where we're seeing a lot more tutor numbers for one-on-ones that are coming in, and also our outplacements. So there is some concern with special ed front we do see in the budget this year. The overall special ed budget on its own is probably over by about $200,000. So in other words, in the whole, there's some savings inside special ed, but not as much as we typically have seen. And the tutor line alone is over by about $150,000, because we do have students that show up. They have IEPs that dictate they have a one-on-one support, and obviously we don't have an aide currently, and we have to go out and hire one to meet that student's needs. So,
Okay. I know I should know this because I've been here since the beginning of time. Okay, so they're outplaced from someone else, from here to Danbury. And that district isn't liable for absorbing some of that cost?
Oh, no nexus.
no,
No, I understand it's not. I just want to know why.
if they get placed here on DCF placement, DCF basically handles the claim process, and if it does have child with special ed needs, and they will actually, in a sense, facilitate the placement, I guess, the way to put it, and we have very little say in the process.
For example, someone may live in a town 15 miles away. They are placed with a family in Danbury.
Right.
When they're placed in Danbury, then it becomes this Board of Education's responsibility because of domicile. That's why it becomes a responsibility. If they would not move in our town, then you wouldn't have that responsibility. But that's a good point. But when they relocate here to our town for services, then the board has to project and provide the education for that child, given the option, by law.
We've also gone to mediation on some. We've had, obviously some legal bill hits as well on some. So it's, it is definitely an area of concern we have. And I said, I'll get into a little more detail at the next meeting, but definitely know it's on the radar.
I'm sorry, it never ceases to amaze me. And because, so I have a child, and my child has a very severe needs, and we can't meet them in Danbury. So the child is bused to a school in Hartford every day, or not bused actually, it goes in a limousine. I know that it's a case that I know of, that's why I'm saying it that way. By herself, by the little girl by herself. And she does that for 3 years. Did we pay for that tuition to that school?
We do. If we have a place.
So we pay, if we can't handle it here and we ship it to somewhere else, we pay for that.
You pay for the busing and for the tuition. So the tuition placement could be 65 or 70,000. We've actually have some that are upwards of 100.
Well, because they don't live there.
And then you also have the private transportation, which could be another $20,000 plus dollars.
So it's a catch-22, try to keep them in.
We try to provide to Dr. Salzman.
Your identification rate is below the national average, about 12%. But what has happened has been the outplacements have gone.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well, let me make it so you don't have an option, according to the law. If you sit at an IEP and it's determined. Now, Joe just said something. We do have mediation. We do have arbitration. So if we think it's not in the best interest of the child, not the district financially, that we have programs that we think we need and we do something about it. We don't prevail. When we don't prevail, we pay our attorney fees and we pay the parents' attorney fees. I mean, that's just the way it works. And we try to do this right. This year, we've had an unusually high number of DCF moving into Danbury. Already with an existing IEP with a placement.
Someplace else.
Yes.
Yes.
So,
Right.
so it could be a child coming from like Waterbury, living with a family in Danbury, and we are still responsible to transport that child to Waterbury.
Could be, if
Yes,
it's
if that's what's on the
If we can't service them here.
No, that's the piece that they're arguing.
That's the piece that sometimes you argue if you have a comparable program. That's exactly what I mean.
But this is a discussion in legislative circles too, because some states do help districts with the cost, like New York picks up a large percentage of the cost.
Say what?
New York, states like New York assume the cost, the state assumes the
Well,
cost.
Connecticut has a similar situation. They call excess cost. If someone moves in and we pay 3.5 times our rate, I think it's, let's just say it's $45,000. Once we paid at $45,000 that we didn't anticipate, think about that, then it goes into what they call excess cost. The state then does a calculation, and typically they've been paying about 80% of that bill in two payments. We don't get it categorically, it goes to the city.
Oh.
So the city in their makeup will get a check. Last year, they got a check for, I don't know, 300, 400,000, whatever. And it goes into, and then it's looked at as our allocation. So there is some reimbursement. But the Board of Ed's budget, the operational budget, if you don't put in 10 anticipated, which we don't because it's so high, then you have to put all that money out in order to make that happen. So that's just the way that is.
I don't want anyone to think that I'm grudging any child in education. And I know what an IEP is. I have one for my own child for his first 6 years of school. So I understand how expensive it is and how hard everybody works to make it work. It just doesn't, it just doesn't seem fair. And that's what I'm saying. We have our own kids that we're trying to get together and it just...
In my tenure here, typically we've had, for example, a student might get outplaced and maybe won't come back in the district. So it's kind of this washing in and out of students. Well, this year it's been just a real melt up of students just constantly. Just won't come into the day. it's really, that's why I said I didn't want to kind of put the board on alert on it, because you'll see even in next year's budget, there's significant increases in special education.
I'm sorry, Joe, I wasn't.
You may recall when we talked to legislators, I'm asking for a bill that shifts the burden of proof to the people who feel injured. Right now, it's on the Board of Ed to prove why. That's, no other court of law does that exist. Connecticut is probably the only state that allows that. Every other state, if a parent has a gripe or there's a teacher that someone has they have to prove, the burden of proof is on the complainant. Here, it's on us. That's a big standard to overcome. Now, if that changes, that will change some things. But right now, that's just the way it is. So when I talk to legislators, that's what I was talking about, to try to change that operational guideline, which is was an issue.
Thank you.
So anyway, Danbury, you've heard me talk about it. It's been in the news. They call it DECO, Early College Opportunity. We've been one of the districts that have been really to move forward on it. There is money trying to go through the legislature because Dr. Gray and the current re-elected governor are very interested in this early college. And you read the statistics with students moving away. Jobs in Connecticut, we're losing kids and not prepared to work in the industry. We have a few industries that have stepped up, Pitney Bowes and Char Oaks, where they actually will work as mentors, and our kids will participate there. And upon graduation, they'll have the possibility of employment. And then that down at the end of this thing. We have to start the program. We'll start next year. But we have to have an organization. We've had an organizational meeting in order to meet the law. Naugatuck is working with us. They're very enthused. This all works out. This is the part that I told you that there could be kids that take the summer programs and do this, can leave high school with an associate's and a high school diploma. My argument is, in terms of payment, there's money that goes to the university. We already paid for an FTE for a teacher, but there's college professors that participate in this. So there's a lot of things that make it very neat, somewhat expensive because they just are, because you have two entities in there. And there is money in the current budget going forward through the State Board of Ed to help mitigate that. But we're looking at 3 to 4 years out. The only touchy point here is that they're asking us to have a director to run the program. If this does happen, I have to figure that out. I am out seeking some kind of angel that will pick it up for us. General Electric, was it, or was it GE that picked it up for Norwalk?
IBM,
one of the major corporations picked it up for them. I am seeing if there's some company that will do that. We'll be recruiting students. We'll have approximately 100 students participate beginning next year, beginning this summer with some orientations. So we're really excited about it. This will be part of the new projections when we look at the plans, and that's my next point here. With the high school, you're going to see the high school, the freshman school, and some other dedicated areas in order to break down the high school. This will be one of the, it could be in 4 years you'll have an early college of about 400 students that will be up there running this program. So we're pretty excited about it. But there are some challenges, but I think Danbury needs to be at the top of this one. It's a home run for our kids and our families and our community.
Will they have to meet a criteria?
No, in order to get the degree, yes.
Yes.
But in order to enter the program, no. You have an interest and there's a willingness to do it, much like that, then you'll be permitted to come in. If we have too many students, it'll be a lottery. We just have to see the interest to be fair to everyone at this point. But obviously, the coursework is a coursework, right? Mayor's Task 2020, you've heard some things. There's been conversation about what conceptually it's going to look like. I talked to Wayne Shepherd and the mayor last week. They are apparently the architects that have a rendition to give the mayor. As soon as they get that, they'll convene and they'll have to come to the board. Remember, the board sets the specifications to the design of the building. They have some general things that's going to happen in that building. So as soon as we have it, and I'm hoping soon that we'll all get to see it and then have a conversation. The intent here is in May to have a referendum. So this May.
You haven't seen
Provided
any
everything goes. Pardon?
As of yet, you haven't seen?
There have been just some conversations, Joe's been on me, just some conversations of what it may look like. There'll probably be a wing for the freshmen, up to 22 to 26 classrooms, a different entranceway for security and what have you, and there'll be some of the, and also the area about the auto shop area can be used as a mini theater because that has been something the high school has been looking at. So there's some things like that, but I haven't seen a model in front of me or a design. And that's what we're hoping to see.
So, quick question. Into the auto shop, they're talking about eliminating auto shop altogether?
Well, that's our specs to determine that. That number has been very low. We've had good numbers for the introductory courses. The others, the advanced ones, not so solid. I will tell you though, there's been an opportunity, and I'm pursuing it, that we have a wonderful high school in the city that is an area magnet for all sorts of technology. It's funded tremendously, the equipment is tremendous, and I'm meeting with the superintendent. There may be a possibility of utilizing their space with current technology and all of that. So if our kids have an interest, if we decide not to do that, so there's options so our kids are not cut off because of our proximity to HATS. But right now, the program is being offered, and we'll continue to monitor.
So just ask me.
Yeah, oh, that's true. We are looking at it. We've had to really push to have the program, the second part of it, phase 2. Introductory, all kids are interested. But after that, it dwindles tremendously. May is 2020. Smart Gov. I'll let Kim and Kim her favorite subject. Don't get too passionate.
I think as many of you are aware, the mayor had organized some work with the consultants, Blue Shapiro, and organized a team of people that were people who held decision-making positions throughout the city and the Board of Ed to come and work with Blue Shapiro in an effort to try to get a handle on things like staffing, budget flow, that sort of thing. And so Joe and I have been attending meetings since the summer, I think spring, summer. They are more or less monthly at this point, and they are kind of roundtable discussions talking with the team and the consultants about the vision of the city of the future, which is the goal of this project, to create the city of the future, where services and different projects are combined so that we can make the greatest use of efficiencies in our departments. And so there was a draft report that was produced that we've all had a chance to kind of look at and roll over, and it's still very much a work in progress. Many of you may have seen an article in the paper last week where the mayor talked a little bit about the initiative and his hopes for some kinds of consolidation. The place that will most affect us is a longer-term proposal. It looks to us to be a longer-term proposal to talk about sharing finance and human resources services with the city, which has lots of ramifications, legal and otherwise. So we've been talking about those with the city as well. And we're now waiting for the next phase where they're a little bit more specific about what they hope to see. The consultants are spending a lot of time also on the city structure and talking about organization of services in their institution as well. So it's a pretty large project that I think is moving somewhat slowly, but we're hopeful that there will be some more definitive things that we can come out and report to you on and have a conversation about where they can go.
Thank you. Thanks.
That's all I have.
Okay, middle school programming?
Yes, we have this year been looking at the middle school program in general, and there's things that have been happening there that have been exciting. That they're running an advisory program over at Rogers Park. They're doing some tennis over at Broadview. They both moved into a trimester for their core, and they also did the block scheduling. Those things are happening. One of the things that we've asked them to do, and you've asked us to do, is what are things working at Westside and at academies that we could look at and infuse it into the rest of our programs. for equity and access for our kids. And the thing that seems to resonate with many of us has been the exploration part. We started playing around with our themes and what have you, and come around the notion that we could specialize with the idea of project-based learning and having students involved in those projects are probably as important as the topic that they enter into. So we've been looking at how that might be able to have it operationalized. So in the budget, you're going to see a half-time in each of the 2 middle schools to implement the program. We're still defining the program. If we cannot feel comfortable in the program, then we won't do it. But unless I put it in now, it just won't happen. And we're still refining what it would look like. There's excitement on the part of the 2 middle schools to do it, but we want to make sure that it's done properly, and our kids have the right opportunity, and the teachers have the right training. And that's what we're learning from the new academy. So Bill is not here. He's been working more intimately with them. They're meeting next week again with the group, and we're talking more. The other thing we've been looking at is our literacy program at the middle school, and we're also looking at some remedial work that we feel is needed at the elementary as well. And I say that just to couch it, we'll talk more when we get into the budget conversations. But the middle school has been looking at some of the recent best practices, and they're making some adjustments, which is pretty exciting as far as I'm concerned. And I'll bring you more specificity when I have that specificity. But in the budget, you'll see an exploration. You'll see some remedial assistance too at the schools for next year. Chippewa Regional Agricultural School. Joe, you're more familiar with that than I am.
As the board may or may not know, currently there's VOAG centers across the state. Our regional VOAG is Nonalog High School. So currently today that is our main setting. There's about 19 boards of ed that need sense that and services. So Chicago Valley High School, which actually is my old district, they're in the process of putting together a new regional VOAG for them. And because the current VOAG is grossly oversubscribed, they want to break apart the region. So Chicago Valley would actually be, Danbury would be sending students there through their lottery program. Currently, this year we have about 8 or 9 students up at the VOAG. So we currently have, by statute, have to provide busing for those students to that location. So the discussion now is, in a sense, to give support for Chicago to make their own. We would no longer be sending students to Nonalog. Chicago would be our new sending VOAG center. So it's really, the board is not much as far as a cost factor. There's some questions surrounding busing. If we have current students at Nonalog, in other words, once we split off, we have kind of students at Nonalog and Chicago and how busing works. But they're kind of coordinating some ideas on the busing idea there. So I don't think it'll be much of an impact.
It's an opportunity for our kids that
yeah.
we want to not permit that, but I guess in order for them to have an application to be voted on, local boards have to pass it first, permit that to happen. Then they will submit an application to the state, and the state will make a determination if they're going to do it, as I understand it. So the next meeting, I'll bring it back for your vote. Do we need to get any other information? So we just pay for transportation?
We pay and tuition.
What is the tuition?
It's $8,500 a student. We budget $40,000. Actually, so we're over budget because we had the way the lottery came out. We actually had more students there. So right now it's $54,000.
Okay.
Phyllis, go ahead.
This is going to seem like a silly question, but is Chicago closer than Nanawan? Or is it farther, or is it the same?
I go about the same. I mean, it's both in the Great White North.
I don't know past, I don't know where Chicago is. I know where Nanawan is.
I mean, by bus, you basically go kind of through Brookfield, over to Bridgewater, over to Lake Willanoa that way. I was at 133, okay. And that would bring you into Bridgewater. That's probably the way to get there. Where Nanawa, you go actually probably up 84, and you get off, go through Southbury, and then go kind of through Seven Woodbury. So my guess is bus ride's probably about equal.
When I talked to the principal, he said they're 7 miles apart. So they'll do a satellite program if they have some overlap. So that's the distance between, he said, the two schools. if it happens 7 miles, but I don't know.
I think the amazing fact that I read here is agriculture is the nation's largest employer. Who would have thought it? I mean, everybody's nodding like they knew that. Did you really know that? You did that.
We get inspected by the Department, New York Department of State Agriculture for pressure. So,
All right.
yeah, there's.
Okay, so that's why you knew that, but because I was like, really? And you knew the and who makes for this agriculture? Okay. All right, on that note, I'm turning page.
Wait till you see the hydroponics that we have going on.
The VOAGs are wonderful programs. If
No, I know it is.
Yeah, I know.
I never thought of it.
Yeah.
It was big.
Obviously it was the biggest thing,
Oh,
the
yeah.
longest time forever, but I never think of it anymore. Technology and, well, it always was the lowest thing. Okay.
There's livestock up there. It's
For the board, so that in case parents call you, we include the SPAC schedule for you. We have a practice schedule too that's going to be going on. Joe has had to purchase the equipment earlier than we wanted to, but it's just the way it happened because the state's not going to permit us to submit the grant in time to get into the case of practice. So we'll have enough equipment to practice the equipment. So that seems to be going well. Jody back here is part of the putting it together with Terrence in charge of all of this. So this is the program this year. The AIS information is in West Side Lottery. I know Frank's been going around talking to the schools about it. One thing I want to alert you to about the AIS, Newtown enrollment precipitously is dropping, generally speaking, more so than the surrounding towns around us. They've notified us that they're going to take 7 less seats next year in the academy. So we'll see how that turns out. The way the law has changed in Connecticut prior to 3 or 4 years ago, if a district did not participate, the parents were not able to attend. But the law permits parents, if they're interested, to apply directly. And we do have a phase opening to what we call outside districts. We have people from Southington, Ridgefield, a number of other places that are not part of the county. They have to provide transportation. That's the real big difference. If it's one of the co-op towns provide transportation. All right, that's the way that works. But we will have 7 less students in the lottery for Newtown next year.
West Side's lottery opens January 21st, in case I know a few folks have asked. And AIS's lottery opens January 1. West Side's 21st.
Okay. Family literacy materials in there. Western Connecticut had us there. They're doing a strategic plan. I just thought you should know we participated in that. The new commissioner, interim commissioner, is Diane Robage-Wenzel. I received a notice today. The applications are closing for the new commissioner in February. They intend on having someone appointed by March, which will be interesting. So she's interim commissioner. The excise Cadillac tax, you want to talk a minute about that? That's
Sure.
the filing, that's the last page.
So, turning it on and off. So part of, part of what,
Part of what the Affordable Care Act does at a certain point is it phases in what you might have heard of as the Cadillac tax. So it sets a threshold for the value of a plan, a family plan, and anything above that threshold then requires a pretty draconian tax. I think, I don't remember the exact percentage. 40% of the excess. And if it is a tax, then the question is, does the employer pay the tax? And if it is something other than a tax, then the question is, can we negotiate with our bargaining units to somehow either pass through that assessment, or can we offer an alternate plan so that if someone, for example, in the course of bargaining, if a unit wanted to say, our folks could either keep their plan that they have and pay the additional cost, or they could opt for a different plan that meets the threshold. What has happened is CEA has filed what they call declaratory judgment action, which basically means they've gone to the State Board of Mediation and Arbitration and said, here's the scenario, tell us what you think. And so right now we're all sort of eagerly awaiting some sort of news. But I think it's actually going to be a long time before that issue ever gets resolved. We're not negotiating, well, we're not really in a position where we're going to have to worry about it quite yet, but it's on the horizon. So that's just kind of an update. That's an issue that's being worked through all sorts of decision makers right now. Different towns are dealing with it in different ways. So until we get some final ruling on it, no one's quite clear how it's going to work. But while I'm on the Affordable Care Act, the other thing we will say is that we also, as a district, have some pretty major reporting obligations to start to meet now that include, for example, reporting a lot of data about the folks that work for us, their social security numbers and those of all of their dependents, who's been offered a plan, access to a plan in what months of the calendar year. So there's quite a bit of data work that needs to get done. So we've been working with Steve Rinaldi, our insurance consultant, to try to get payroll records together in some sort of data dump, for lack of a better word. We've been also working with Phoenix, who runs our HRP system. They don't even have a way to pull that information out. They're building it for us and several other folks. But I will tell you it's going to be a tremendous amount of work. And the penalty for doing it wrong is millions. It's quite significant. I think it's pretty heavy. So we're now trying to make sure we've got staff in the right place and that we've got people that are facile with the data that can report it the way it needs to get reported, but that's going to be kind of an ongoing process for us for the next year or so to make sure we've got it right.
Thank you.
So before you get off, can you just update the board on the hiring for principal? I just so they know.
Sure. As you know, we have an interim principal at Stadley Ruff. We also have an interim assistant principal at King Street Intermediate. So those positions have been posted as full-time contracted positions for the 15-16 school year. And I was communicating with the chair because we need to pull together some interview committees for those two positions. Right now, those are the only administrative positions that we're aware of vacancies. So what I'd really like to do is pull the panels together and try to get them going by the end of January, beginning of February. One of the things that Dr. Sell and I have been talking about at this human capital cohort that we go to Hartford to once a month or so is the necessity for us to be pushing the hiring process earlier in the year. So we think that doing it right about now, January, February, is a real good time for us to be thinking about getting those positions nailed down so that we can make other changes if we need to.
So we're looking for names for those committees.
So we're looking for two folks among you.
And the times were again?
We typically do them during the weekday, Monday to Friday. We can accommodate to your schedules to the best extent we have, but Monday to Friday during the workday because we do put teachers and other staff members on the panel, so we need to do it during the school day.
With Gary, with the high school, when does his term expire?
He will be here all of next year.
Oh, you will?
Yes, as part of our agreement with him, he'll be here through the 15-16 school year. So we'll need to start thinking about that as well. And Dr. Salmon have started kind of brainstorming about how we're going to schedule-wise, how we're going to.
They have like a sort of like a plan, from what I understand.
There's,
It's a sort of like plan.
you brought it up, there's Gary for sure will say next year, by permission, we have to get permission, but we can do that. There's a conversation about the other two middle schools as well. So I really am really concerned about losing people to retirement, so we have to have some real hard conversations. I think going out early, particularly at the secondary, at the high school, we've been through a number of principals up there. We've had this experience, so we need to really strategize on how we can get the best candidate and do it as well as we can to bring someone in. And then we'll have to see what happens at the other places. I'm hearing rumors that I'm a little uncomfortable, in terms of where we might be here for next September.
We anticipate that several neighboring communities are going to also be looking for high school principals. Right. So we're going to be in competition.
Free for sure, did you just say?
Yeah, and they pay a little bit more.
Of course.
Well, I mean, that was a conversation with the state today, quite frankly, with this whole thing in recruiting and what the urban, suburban places and the urban places are having problems. We can't retain it. It just is. Anyway, thank you for doing that. That's all,
That's all.
that's all she wrote.
Okay, so now it's our turn, guys? Oh, I'm sorry, Kathy, have a question.
Well, going back to the Cadillac tax, what was the intent of that entire tax with who to pay what? What was the intent? Was the employer to pay for them?
I suspect, I mean, I remember just anecdotally, reading the paper that it was intended as a tax for the employer.
For the employer.
I don't know that that ever really was articulated.
I don't think there's any, I could be wrong, but in calculations of the plan, it's not taken into account any share that the employee takes.
Those topics have all been up for discussion. For example, does the HSA money that we put into the plan count towards the value of the plan? Does the share, if the employee tops up their account, does that count towards the ultimate? So there's a lot of wrinkles to how they're even going to label it. And
I just didn't know what the intent was when it was written. Does anybody know? No. I didn't think so. There's one other thing Why? Okay. I don't know.
Joking.
Guns.
All right, Kathy just brought up a point. We aren't really having a secret conversation right here. Okay. It's about traveling, kids traveling to out of the country. And she specifically mentioned the French trip. So you want to address that yourself?
Well, I don't, well, my recollection of this whole thing is that when they do go into the companies, that if it's placed on the list that they provide, then the trip can go somewhere else, is one. Or two, they can have a rebate. If it's not on that list, then you could cancel with the penalty, unless you take the insurance. I think we advise people to take the insurance.
Yes.
So we need to check it out. I need to talk to Gary, we need to look at that and see where we are. We do have a trip this weekend coming up. That's going to Puerto Rico.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
That was-
No, I'm
I know
talking
the one with France.
specifically.
Yes, and that maybe I'm listening.
And it
Check
was,
that.
well, I know they said for United States citizens to show caution, but I don't know if it made any lists.
Well, I think it's a good discussion for us to have with the, yeah, absolutely.
So we'll talk about that next meeting.
Well, we'll talk with it to Gary.
Yeah, and then I'll bring back information
Bring back
on
information,
Gary
thank you very much.
and the chaperone, see what's going on, and with the kids that with insurance, because that's the
Yeah.
main thing.
All right, good. All right, moving along, we have a lot of busy work to do. First of all, I'd like to ask everybody to tell. And on Friday, February 13th, they're having a paid legislative breakfast. It's in Newtown at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'll say the time again, it's Friday, February 13th. It's a breakfast for legislators, and I'd like to see if someone besides me and Sal go. Sal and I. It's a Friday, 13th.
Friday, 13th. Really a lucky day.
Okay, it's 7:30 in the morning. I have the address from Kate. It's really well done. I haven't been to one in a long time. And so I'm looking forward to going. And I know Sal's going, looking forward to it too. Right?
So the other we have anything done.
Right. Okay, so if we can.
Good. The more the merrier.
We can go.
What time is it?
7:30 in the morning on Friday, the 13th of February.
I don't think so.
It's in Newtown. I'll give them, send them the address myself. All right, well, let's try to, what, you try, okay.
Give me the information, I'll see.
Okay, I'll
We'll
send
do some
everybody the
volunteer
information.
work, but
I'll send
I'll-
everybody the information, and then I'll get a definite answer. I want to make a compliment to people, and I'm just saying out loud to hear myself talk. I went to the Praxair reading thing at Park Avenue School today. Apparently, Praxair's been reading there for the last 3 years. They bring their own mentors in, they work with the teachers. It was great. It was just wonderful meeting lovely, lovely people and the teachers. And Dave Krapick is outstanding. He just, Wednesday is Argyle Day at Park Avenue. So
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so if you go Park Avenue, you must wear something Argyle. Got it?
You're right.
I stuck out, noticed no Argyle. I didn't get the memo, all right? I also attended a meeting this afternoon for the it's called Stand Together. Is it Stand Together, Richard?
Stand together makes a difference.
Stand together makes a difference. And I'm going to let Richard talk about it for a few minutes, and we're going to bring something to all of you in some couple of meetings after everybody gets it all together. Richard, you want to just talk about it for a second? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, Richard's going to talk about it next time.
That's okay.
There's the issue of addiction, suicide, problems, casualties, is an issue that we all have to face. It doesn't happen in any one community or in one grade and stuff like that. And one of the things that caught our attention, Eileen and myself, was we initially embarked on something that says, gee, a city like Danbury doesn't have such an organization that stands out and sort of allows the public to know that there are services provided and what's for the information and the educational process on addiction and drug abuse, the suicides, etc. So we happened to look at a website and through something that happened in Brookfield, and they have a website and an organization called Brookfield Cares, and it's headed up basically by the chief of police in Brookfield, and he was nice enough to host myself, Eileen, and me about a month ago and explain to us what he's been doing, what they've been doing, and they've been doing this for about 5 years. The point I'm trying to get at, we came back and said, gee, what we'd like to do is pretty much duplicate what you're doing, and we're here to pick your brains. We'd like to see if we can do that in Danbury. And lo and behold, we stumbled on something, and it was an organization that's called the STMA, Stand Together Makes a Difference. And they invited us to a meeting, and it was incredible that they had everything that we thought that we'd have to start from scratch to have. The point is, that we were getting at, is there is no branding of it. There is no publicizing of it. There are a bunch of different organizations who do an incredible amount of work, who are looking for help and with the school district, who are working with some schools, but in part needs a tremendous amount of consolidation and some guidance. And what we have obligated to them was that the Board of Education would join them and help them with their program. What we'd like to do is at some future date is to have them and come here and make a presentation to you so that they can explain to you the different services that they provide to the community. We found it amazing that this all was available to us. They have an organization that deals with young people to keep them out of jail. They have another organization that does something where they track attendance in schools. Their MCCA, which is the community thing in Danbury, is on this committee with them. It was absolutely amazing that we found, rather than starting from scratch and reinvent the wheel, that we had all these components, as you want to call them. What we'd like to do is to have a board member, similar to what we do with DSABC, be on the board of this particular group, so that it enforces the relationship between the Board of Education and this organization. To help them create a website and do ratings and do more speaking and engage the children, well, the kids, I don't want to say children, in the awareness of drug abuse. It was just absolutely absolutely incredible. One of the things we'd like to do is to have on their banner or on their, let's call it, board of directors, the mayor, the chief of police, the lady from the housing committee, somebody from the religious communities, so that we have a buy-in by the community in this particular endeavor. It's just amazing the resources that are there. They have a nominal budget that they have. I think it maxes out at $10,000. Very small for what they do. Just an incredible amount of dedicated people from different agencies that work sort of behind the scenes. What's nice about it is there is a resource there. Unfortunately, it's not known, so that we can tout to other people in the city to say these resources are available. And I often say it's like a business. If you have a product and you don't advertise it, you don't make the brand known, then you're not going to be too successful. And that's what we have to do. We've got the ingredients. It's just a matter of making them very aware that this actually exists. And for the Board of Education to be part of it. Some of the things they mentioned to us was they tried to get into the schools, and some schools have been receptive to them so that they could make presentations to the students in terms of some of the evictions and things. So it is very exciting, absolutely incredibly exciting, and we'd like them to make a presentation to you. And then hopefully you'll support our endeavor to join up with them.
We didn't automatically just volunteer every single one of you, okay? Because I think that's against the law. But we did both Richard and I stepped up to the plate and said, we'll sit on the board for now until they get better established, just to help facilitate, because it's easier for us to get people to sit on that board than it is for them, because they're so busy working, being social workers, and they're so busy working. And nobody's heard of them. I mean, not nobody. People have heard if I start talking about something, they're like, oh, is that who does it? I mean, they're actually do classes in our middle schools that I was aware of on alcohol use, and they do all these studies, and the work they do is amazing. So the gentleman that handles the truancy problem is going to do a report for us, and I said, if I could just get together and just tell us what you're doing.
What kind of report is he going to do?
Well, that's what I need. Nobody knows.
Well, Stan works with us. We work with Stan.
No, Stan doesn't do that part of it. Stan does the social work part of it.
Yeah, but when you say, I'm not arguing.
No, I mean, he doesn't, I mean, I asked, nobody knows. I said, no, I don't think anybody knows that you're trafficking truancy.
But
Go ahead, ask me.
no, I'm saying I want to be careful about what I ask all these people to do. I mean, I have stuff that we're collecting, and people want things. We volunteered to have this survey done in the schools. Not all school districts have. But, what we're telling them to do, I just want to make sure they're working with us in that.
Well, that's what
I'm concerned about
we're
the
trying to
truancy.
do. That's why I want them to make a report to you. I mean, that's what I mean. Does Dr. Pascal know what you're doing? Well, I think so. And that's what it is. It's just disjointed. That's why nobody knows about it. There's no strong.
I mean, it sounds harmless, it sounds good, but just
Well, wasn't it? Yeah.
careful.
And
When we start
now
asking
is,
those groups to do these things.
well, we didn't ask them. They've been doing them for a couple of years.
Yeah, nobody.
No, we didn't. This
Well,
isn't
I just
us.
heard you say that you've asked them to do it.
No.
Well, I
I'm
want
not-
to-
I've asked them to make a presentation to the board as to what they do, not that we've asked them to do anything.
No. They've been doing it all along.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what, that was what's amazing when we sat, the first meeting that we attended, we sat and
They came into citywide PTO.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We
Yeah, so
actually say,
we've
I just
heard of
want-
them before. They did a presentation about the services that they offer. That was at West Side, right? When we toured the place?
that was the group.
That's the same group you're talking about.
And the thing that we're talking about is the reason I'm saying, we just came through identifications with the state about what truancy is, how to make that report. I don't know what they're, I got, that all
Well,
has
that's
to
what I'm
be
saying.
consistent with, when someone puts a report that says this is the way it is, I just need to be.
Well, because the amazing part of it is there are people that sit on this board that are established, that are been sitting on this board for 3 or 4 or 5 years that it's been in existence, who are employees of the Neighborhood School System. There's social workers. There's, I mean, that's not what the whole thing is comprised of is our employees. It's all different, from all different walks of life. Most of them are social workers or psychologists or Terry Butler is counselors and for AA and others. And the work they're doing is pretty amazing. And I'm like, wow, I never even knew you were around. And that was it. It started, the only reason we found it is because in an effort where Richard was trying to put together the whole piece on drug use and suicide. So when we checked into the Brookfield Cares and we did all those meetings, we said, well, we can't figure out who can do it. We should be able to do it really well also. Better probably, because we have a richer audience to pull from. And then it was through investigation that we were trying to recreate a reel that already existed. Our version of Brookfield Cares is Stand Together.
Actually, Stan is part of the, I have a directory
So I had the meeting, that's why I directed.
Stan is part of the.
Stan is part of
the group. There's
and
another
Dr.
gentleman,
I'm sorry,
and the lady at ACE.
Dr. Grayson downstairs, we were talking about doing this.
Glenda, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
about doing it because we have all, because the program.
Glenda's part of it.
Glenda's part.
Yeah, and
Glenda's part of
there's
it.
another, the teacher, I think she's a teacher, at ACE is there. There's another gentleman at
Sandy.
Ellsworth.
And Jackie used to run it, Jackie Gennaro used to run it.
Gennaro. So it's a collective group of individuals that are creating a resource that is small, doesn't really have any much clout or much direction, certainly could work in tandem with you. There's nothing that we're directing them to do or
No,
asking them to do.
Richard, you're taking it the wrong way. I'm just saying, when people direct to do reports, be careful in terms of what to do. This group has worked with us. We've reached out with them in suicide. They've come out and do workshop. Counselors are aware of the group, so they're a vital part of what we do.
Right.
I have no problem with that. I just want to make sure that what they're reporting is the same information, because it gets, somebody puts a report out there.
Right. Yeah,
And
I-
it's not,
yeah, I-
you
I'm
be
not-
careful, that's all.
I
I'm just
haven't
watching
seen
out for
any
that.
of the reports or anything.
Okay. But it is a good group, we've worked with them, and they've been helpful to us.
Mhm.
The suicide ideation stuff and workshops.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, we've done this.
And one of the another thing we're trying to do is to the part now we're trying to do, using as part of the discussion, is in making young people aware of problems, addiction problems. I would say sometimes it's difficult for a young person to listen to an adult. You know, somebody coming in and giving a speech and saying, well, you know, according to statistics, you know, I've got 25 pages of a survey that says drug addiction is no good, or alcohol is no good, or drinking, etc. I think it doesn't have much of an impact as you get somebody that they could relate to that's been through that particular problem's recovered and can tell you sort of like a brief story in terms of what they had, how they hit bottom and they came back. So that's some of the things that when we're talking to them is to say, do you have people like that have experiences? And they did mention that in one of the conversations or presentations that they had in one of the schools, they have students, or not students, but young people who have been through the problems who could share the experiences of it. So another, I think it's a good way to get a message across that can relate to a younger person, having a younger person relate the same message.
All right, thanks, Richard. Kathy had a policy meeting today. Kathy, you want to give us a synopsis?
Sure, I'll make it short. Our policy committee, Sterling was with us at our meeting. Sterling, you chaired a committee to discuss changes that need to be made, and that committee was made up of other faculty members.
Faculty and tech people, in the school, and community public relation people.
Very good. And after the discussion, we just asked that your parent notification and permission slip be modified so that it, for clarity.
Yes.
More than anything. And a review of new additions and clarifications will be brought to the committee again on January 28th before our next board meeting, before we can make a formal recommendation to the full board. Let's see, is there anything? And the electronic participation at board meetings by fellow board members, that just brought up more questions than answers, so that will also be, there will be more discussion about that. And did I mention that we're going to have it on the 28th? Yes, the 28th.
That's before the regular board
Yes,
meeting?
6 o'clock, yep.
Okay.
Jody, did you get that information?
Alrighty, that was the Kathy, that was Kathy. Joe, we need a sites and facilities meeting for the report of everything that's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could figure out a date and give us a ring, okay?
Yeah, I'll work with that, and obviously, the board saw the issue of Pembroke, Great Plain over the weekend. We did rectify the situation. The environmental contractor's office will clean up on Sunday. All reports came back negative and clean, and working with the Department of Health on that.
And I just
Nice
want
job.
the board, I did get a petition from the Pembroke parents. Said thank you for the work that they did, but that wasn't sufficient. They'd like to see the whole parking lot paved. The mayor's working on that with his group. There was also something about roofs that's coming to fruition.
Yeah, the city is embarking on 4 roof replacements this summer. King Street Primary, King Street Intermediate, Haystown, and a portion of the roof on South Street. We actually set a kickoff meeting to architects today. There's a lot of motions we have to go through at both the board level and council level as far as moving that to the state. So
Did they go to the council first? Then
yeah, it goes to the council first, then it'll come to the board.
Okay. Alrighty, so we'll have a meeting soon then, so we can all discuss that. Sorry. Let's get to work and get this over with. Not that it isn't interesting. Board of Education committees and members. Let's start at the top. Sites and facilities. I have Kathy Romanero.
Yes, you do.
And who else do I have? Phyllis?
I'd like to switch from,
Don't do that, just tell me what you're going to be on now. You know what I'm saying, Tim? I have you, Ralph, if you
no, I don't.
according to your email that you sent me today, Ralph is on sites and facilities, community relations, and policy. Is that correct?
No.
No, that's wrong, because you didn't want to be on community relations, right? Okay. So I have you on 2. Operations, sites and facilities, and policy.
Okay.
Anything else? Yeah? Okay. Okay, I have Kathy Molinaro on sites and facilities, policy. Anything else, Kathy?
Finance.
Kim?
Yes.
How many
What's your
negotiations
email
do
sent out?
you have to?
No, I had two secretaries and safety advocates. I have 3.
So 2,
3.
just
All
non-certified.
non-certified.
Okay.
But 3 different ones that will probably run about the same time frame, so you may want to appoint different people. Otherwise,
Okay.
it could get fairly time consuming.
Okay. All right, so I have Kathy, I have Ralph, Bob.
Well, basically, we're going to ask to stay on the same things because I really believe in continuity.
All right, well, what,
Okay,
will you tell me
policy.
what that is, because I don't know
Okay,
what
policy,
Okay, hold on, policy?
superintendent's evaluation. Right, I'm also on sites and facilities and, I guess TDEC and, I have been able to make all those meetings, TDEC and teacher's evaluation, I'll stay with that.
Teachers evaluation, there are no teachers evaluation.
Okay.
I mean, you mean negotiations. They need non-teaching.
He means TDEC.
Oh, TDEC.
We
Oh, that one.
you have to have a board rep on
Excuse me.
Yeah.
liaison, I should say.
It's been one thing.
You're skipping ahead, Bob.
You got that, got it. That's okay. Okay, Michael, I have Michael Ferguson, yes, read his name, on policy and superintendent's evaluation, is that correct? Is there anything else you would like to do?
I'd like to keep the SABC.
Yes, I'm sorry, I have you on the SABC, I'm sorry. Now, right, but you're not, right, because you can't take yourself off the TA.
Yeah, that's okay.
Well, you can't do it, so you
Yeah,
have
that's
time. Okay, Gladys, your superintendent's evaluation?
I'm doing community relations, finance, and superintendent evaluation.
Thank you very much. Anybody else ready, Phyllis?
Am I ready?
No? Okay, that's okay. Dave?
I could tell you.
Good day, good day.
Ladies first?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, just
Community relations?
community relations.
I'm just gonna keep the same stuff, so community relations, finance, and administrators negotiations.
There are no administrative negotiations, there's just non-teaching negotiations.
No, according to the chart in front of me.
I know, but there's
Negotiations
not going to be any
administrators.
this year, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, right, so I'll just take those two.
Okay. Okay.
I will volunteer for the non-teaching.
Thank God, this was another somebody did, okay.
And, I guess I'm gonna, that oral health, those things don't ever do anything.
And it doesn't look like it's on,
So,
I'll put you on those for when, because as
When
soon
they
as,
convene?
yeah, for when they can be
Yeah,
for
just,
you.
is that okay? In
Oh,
case
yeah.
they need sometimes they need a board member.
And
when
it'll
they
only
have
be
some
one
program.
person, because they basically merged the two of them together this year.
okay, I just don't wanna not do my share. But I know that I'm going to remain active unless you need two people for feedback, otherwise I'll just do.
Will, you could do that, you could be the alternate for that. For Bob, if Bob can't make it, he'll call you. That's-
Okay.
Is that good?
Okay.
Do we have, I heard you, do we have enough for negotiations?
Well,
We need to bring
I
it
think
up.
there's only the two, right?
I just want to make sure.
So it's just those two people need to know, we're talking probably at least 3 sessions of contract and 3 contracts.
Okay, I only, that's why, let's finish, just finish everybody, all right?
I can do negotiations.
That's what I thought you could do, so I would, but if, you just let me finish it, okay? All right, Ralph, you're done, Kathy, David. Mr. Janelli, I have you in finance and
I'd like to
community
stay with
relations.
community relations, finance, and the sites and facilities, so keep the continuity.
Alrighty,
And the superintendent's evaluations.
also,
Yeah.
thank you, Richard. Okay,
Keep this in that I have.
I don't know what they are.
All right, that is policy. Superintendent's evaluation.
That's it. Okay, so I have a little bit of a problem. I have on operation sites facilities, Janelli, Molinaro, Petrofessa, Tavistock. Good, okay.
Oh, I was on there too, but you can take me off if you don't want me there.
Okay, that's fine, that gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. Community relations, I have Gladys, Janelli, Katrina, Petrofessa. No, he's off, he came off that, I'm sorry.
Kathy.
Kathy?
She was on there.
No. Oh, you were, you wanted, okay, there you go. So that gives you 1, 2, 3, 4 people. Yes, good. Okay, finance, I have Mrs. Cooper. I have Richard Hawley, Richard Janelli, Katrina, in Molinaro. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's good. I have non-teaching negotiations, Tabersac and Transville. That's 2. That's all we're going to get. Is that okay? Anybody else that's available during the day? Because these things all happen during the day. Yeah. Policy. I have a plethora. I have too many people on my policy. I have Michael Ferguson, Ann Rose, Richie Hawley, Kathy Molinaro, Ralph, and Bob Tabersac. Was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 people.
That's a board meeting.
That is a board meeting. It can't be. Somebody. No, you're saying it.
Sorry.
Is there anybody that would not?
What's the goal of how many each person should be? No,
Because at 6.
Wait. Sorry. How many committees do you want one person to be on? That was going to be my question.
As many as you want to be on. There's no limit. In other words,
I'm saying if you have someone who has like 4 or 5,
Richard has
you
1,
have
2,
too many on
3,
one.
4. Richard
That's
has
that person.
4 right now, and he has the most. No, he doesn't. Bob
Just
Tabersac
depends
is
what
right.
you feel you
Is
can
right up there.
attend.
1,
You can't
2,
attend
3.
it.
Bob Tabersac is 5. Phyllis has 2.
Could I just ask a question?
3.
Could I just ask a question over here? Is it written down somewhere that I thought all the committees should have a minimum of 5 people on that committee?
Yes.
It's written somewhere.
Maximum.
A maximum.
A maximum of 5.
A maximum.
Okay, so this one.
There's no minimum.
Otherwise, it's a.
Yeah, I understand once you get above 5, you're going into a committee, a regular board meeting. But I thought it was somewhere.
No,
So then
there's a
somebody has to come
minimum.
up
The
with.
maximum used to be 5 now. We can go back and pull out the records from years before. Okay? So, yeah, until we get to that point, I really think we really need to be clear, because you have a committee, and you're going to start with 3 or 4 people, then you have another group over here, you have 5 people on that. So, to me, it's uneven in the discussions. So, well, that's just the way I see it, okay? So what I'm saying is to clarify. I know we can't have 5 and 5, but, at least, I think the policy or wherever it is written down, that it was a minimum of 5 people on each committee.
Maximum.
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 Yeah.
Maximum.
Yeah, 3 to 5.
I think the board revisited that 3 years ago when you went through the committees, remember their chairman.
Okay.
That's where the conversation.
Yes.
And what's,
I will have to resurrect that sheet of
Okay,
paper, but I
okay,
think
'cause I think
it's
it's
no
kind of-
more than 5, up to 5.
I know that,
and
I
then-
get this.
That's where you read that.
I understand the point of not having more than 5, and I understand what happens when you have more than 5 people. But I just really need that clarification, going back, and I know we're new board, going back trying to really restructure our committee.
It sounds like.
Because I remember once, remember last year, we had a committee where it was only 3 people.
Right.
And that's
So
fine.
you want to know a
But
minimum
it's
time?
fine.
So she wants clarification on what the minimum should be and maximum. So can you
Because you have to have a
have
quorum when you conduct your business. So if you have 2 people, you can't conduct business.
2 out of 5, yeah, 2 out of 3.
Right, but if you have 2 out of
3,
3,
we can.
yes.
But if you have 2 out of 5, no.
Okay, you move on.
Well, actually, no, in fairness, nobody has that answer. Sal's going to get it. He's going to pull the policy book and read what it says actually in the policy.
No, I'm just.
No, that's what he's going to do, and that way we'll have an answer to that. But we'll keep going. We'll just
But
keep
you
going.
keep going.
Well, thank you very
I
much.
don't
All right, because I have things that we need to do that nobody has volunteered for. And to Gladys's point, there is no minimum number, and to the point that I think it's Ann Rose made, that it was trying to make, is how many,
I really
Ralph, I'm
can't
sorry, it was
hear you.
Ralph, that said, wanted to know how many committees can you be on, or how many committees is the norm, is basically what he was asking. And that is basically left up to your time the amount of time that you have to devote to it. I mean, we all know that when we took the job, that it was more than 2 meetings a month. You know, that there was going to be a minimum of 2 or 3, if not more, committees that we were going to sit on.
The mayor said.
Okay, well, yeah, they don't even lie, it's just the sin of omission, is what it's called. We don't talk about it, it's a very busy job. It's one of the hardest jobs there are in the cities to be on board education. It's the most, there's the most, I won't say tedious because that's the wrong word to use. But we all work very hard for no money. All right.
So are you going to?
I'm going to ask people if I have committee, all right, here's the
So we
deal.
were on.
What are called the district committees, okay? If we could find more people to sit on them, the education connection is very important. Representative for Richard.
Nobody wants to do that except me.
Okay. Richard, Janelle, yes. Okay, education connections, Janelle. Okay, the magnet school, that Gladys, by tradition, that would be you. Is that, do you still want to do that?
No, it's not that tradition, I just, you know,
Bob and I.
it's the two.
Would you do Bob last time?
Yeah,
You'll
we'll do it
again?
again.
Okay.
You know, it's, you know, that's like once
Don't
or
worry,
twice.
Gladys, we got
You know, that's a once or twice,
twice a
and it's
year.
like 12 o'clock a day.
I didn't
And they
ask
serve
for all that, I
lunch.
just asked what, you go back.
Actually, Michael wants to come since they serve lunch.
What is Michael wants? What is Michael wants?
Back in school.
And David, okay.
I figured I can't get my kids in. I go back by night.
That's the magnet school. And Rose is doing the oral and the school-based health. Citywide PTO, guys.
That's mostly Ralph,
Yeah, I'll start.
It's just all around.
I think.
Kathy was there once, I think.
I promise I'll show up one day.
I used to go here when I was a
I
president.
did that
I
one
like
year
to,
for 2
I like
years.
to.
Okay.
So it's just Ralph by yourself?
Okay, so those
What's
are,
that?
It's just Ralph by himself?
it's, right now it's
Yes,
Ralph,
Ralph
and he'll
is
call me
citywide.
or Kathy if he needs us.
If he needs me, I'll go.
Yeah.
Everybody
But you can
waves
go.
to Debbie. I call her up and she's just go behind me, you'll find the bylaws. She's
Oh my
watching.
God, is she
it.
watching? Hi, Dad.
She's watching it live. That was funny.
So boring.
Just go behind, there it is.
Debbie, get a life, please, Debbie. Debbie, get a life. We'll be watching the Board of Ed meeting. Come. All right, the whole is a matter of committees. All right. Board of Education shall act as committee of the whole on all matters coming before it, except the special committees for the consideration or investigation of certain problems may be appointed by the chairperson. All right. The membership of the committee should be appointed by the board chair. No more than 5 members of the board may be appointed upon recommendation of the board chair. The committee chair shall be selected by the 5 committee members. The appointment of standing committees will be done 30 days. No committee speak. Did you read this already, Sal, and have the answer, or you may?
No, I just,
Meeting, there is no answer. Meeting of committees to be posted in accordance with the Freedom of Information or record shall be maintained by the chairperson of each committee, blah, blah, blah. No superintendent shall notify all board members of committee meetings, record keeping.
Okay, so there's no.
No, there's no minimum.
So there's only a maximum, so there's one
Yeah.
committee that you have a maximum on, somebody has to come on.
Right. And that is is that policy? I think that's policy.
That's policy.
It is policy. Yes, I have 6. I'm going to go over it. Ferguson, Fusky Latin, Hawley, Molinaro, Petrofessa, Traversa.
He's not here.
We're not, he called it, he told me, he gave it to me 2 weeks ago, or whenever it was big. Called it, because he was going to do it. No, the same thing he's doing with his finance.
Keep doing.
Bob? I'm going to ask Bob.
Do
because
you have
Bob-
finance? Is there an opening on finance?
Is there an opening on finance?
No,
1,
finance.
2, 3, no, there's 5 out of finance. Okay, the way it stands right now, operations is 5. Community relations is 4. Finance is 5. The negotiations is just 2. Kim's making a case, she really wants 3. policy, there is 6, I need some.
Okay, I'll go off it, you know, my feeling of continuity, but I'll go to the meetings. It doesn't matter, okay?
Thank you, Bob. You can still come to the meetings and talk.
And if I want to put input, no problem.
And superintendent's about 1, 2, 5.
And now you have one with a 4?
Yeah, I run with the 4, are you going to go on that?
It's community.
Oh, you're on 15 minutes.
Community relations.
Well, my ideas on community relations about outreach, okay, and I was once on that, and I didn't get very, I think we did it twice. So, no, never mind, I'll just leave it as it is, but.
Okay. Okay. But you're also on two of the district committees, so it's not under no everyone's load. So, okay.
Is there an alternate for like negotiation to make him feel better? I know.
Yeah, oh, you want to be in all,
I'm saying.
Oh, okay, got it.
Can I replace?
I mean,
Okay, that's
Mondays if you want to do it on Monday.
Okay, we'll just, and I can do interviews on Fridays.
You do school on.
I have yoga Monday morning.
Oh.
Well, maybe he could do one.
Is there food?
After the
Yeah, you got, yeah.
Okay, well, we're on this.
Bacon, egg, and cheese.
It's not like an 8 o'clock finance meeting.
I'll cook for that.
Okay, I've lost control, guys. Yo, over here. What we're going to do is this, ready? I need people to interview, because that's the other thing that is staring me down there.
I will.
Okay. Okay, Phyllis? Who else? Gladys?
Interviewing principals.
Somebody else? Bob?
Let me ask the question here, as long as we're doing it tonight. We have 2 committees we have to do. Because the assistant principal is predicated on what we do with the principalship, we have to do that first, but can you make sure, I want to have someone in line for the second committee, so we have.
We need 2 people on each committee, now I've got 3 names.
So if we have one more.
When are you looking to do these?
During the day, any day of the week.
Fridays?
Let me
Just
rephrase.
one.
Which month?
Yeah, like.
End of January, beginning of February.
End of January, beginning of February.
All right, throw me down.
Okay,
I'll
wait.
take it. And if something comes up, then we have to change it.
Okay, just so you know,
I'll give you a lot of names.
I'm available any day after 2:30, and I'm available all day any Friday.
And I can be a call-in.
Okay.
Well,
So you got it, I have Phyllis, Gladys, Bob Tabersack, David, and Eileen Oddly.
Yes.
Okay.
So Kim, stay at the office first, you're going to select 2 to be there, and then the other 3 will be on the other. Is that clear with everybody, so we don't, no misunderstanding?
No, we're not, we're fine, we'll just do what she tells us to.
I just want to make sure nobody,
We're not picking and choosing.
okay.
Okay, next.
I just don't want confusion.
Oh, let's do this quickly. Oh, look at it, quickly. PTO liaison.
Just so you know.
Thank you.
Gladys, what schools are you doing?
South
South Street? Just South Street? Okay,
Right now?
got it. I just asking.
You want eight?
Just 8. Okay. Michael?
High school and chemistry.
And Rose?
You don't have West Side on here?
There's no West Side there. Okay, so West Side is one.
West Side meets the first, according to what has been happening, the first Thursday of every month. You should put it down, West Side.
West Side. Okay, do you have another one or just that one? You're both there, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I don't know what it is. Is Janelle?
Park and Mars.
David Matrina?
Mill Ridge. And is King Street split?
No, they do one.
They do one?
They do one.
All right, you can pair me up with my son that we can alternate or whatever. Since I got kids at home.
All right, Mrs. Molinaro?
I'm gonna do the 2 middle schools this year.
Rogers Park. Are they meeting on the same night?
Yes,
Do they need me all the time?
No, of course not.
Of course
Of course not. Okay, Rocky.
I'm sure they'll get along fine.
All right, Ralph.
Great plan, Sally.
Bob Taversack.
Can you double up with somebody?
Sure.
Okay, I'm just interested in the high school, actually, if somebody else has this.
It was Michael.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it?
See what's available at the end. Okay.
Oh, okay, that's what's missing in the manual. All right, where am I? Phyllis.
You know, I don't even remember, I had East Town at one point in time.
Good, nobody else has yet, so you got it. Okay, what else? One?
Just leave me with East Town for now. If you need
How about the
to do
magnet?
something else, I'll do something.
How about the magnet?
About what?
Magnet School.
AIS.
I thought we had someone for the magnet school.
No, she was somebody for West Side.
Yes, West Side.
Oh, she got promoted?
No,
You?
me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the best side now.
All right, if you need someone to do the magnet school, I'll do them.
I never did the magnet school.
Who did?
Not me. I never did the magnet school.
I did it years ago.
Yeah, I did it once, and,
Anybody's else, I need Ellsworth Avenue covered too, guys, nobody's covering Ellsworth. All right, and, East Town is closed. King Street is done, who?
Holly's not here, she was in.
It's a meeting. You might be watching something.
Policy hasn't changed.
I have nobody for Pembroke.
No, I'm saying you missed the 3 or 4.
I was gonna say, I don't have anybody for Pembroke. Morris Street is done, hold on.
Richard Janelli will
I'll
do.
alternate with that. Pembroke, I'll take Pembroke as well.
And Richard Janelli is doing
That's right.
Pembroke.
You should keep in touch with
I
them.
think you didn't have a full-time job, Richard. Pembroke, I have to write it bad. You have Park, Morris Street, and Pembroke. Park, Morris.
Second.
Yep. Park Avenue's done, Company Street's done. Shelter Rock, you guys, I need Shelter Rock. Gladys is doing
What
mine.
else is doing?
I just said shelter.
What's that? No, Great Plains Saturday.
All right, I'll do shelter.
No,
That's me.
You lost that.
That's part of this.
Sorry.
Someone's Gladys and
I do.
David does it. Okay, so I have South Street, Gladys has South Street, Ace, and Shelter Rock.
You're writing something that you're not, I told you, Shelter Rock and South Street.
Okay.
Why did you, because you go to Ace.
I go to Ace. All right.
Even if I'm not a Great Plains,
South Street and Shelter Rock. Danbury High School and King Street is handled by Mr. Ferguson. West Side is being handled by Ms. Lusky Latin. Mr. Janelli, doing the yeoman's job, is doing Park, Morris, and Pembroke.
I can split one with Pembroke and Richard.
Okay, this is good communication. This is what I'm looking for in my team. This is my team. God help me. David Matreat is doing Mill Ridge and King Street. Kathy Molinaro is doing Rogers Park Middle School and Broadview Middle School. Ralph is doing Great Plain and Stadley Rough.
Who's a Great Plain and Stadley?
And Bob Taversack is doing Danbury High School. And Phyllis Tranzilla is doing Easttown and I have no idea what that says. Oh, the Magnet School.
The magnet school. So Ellsworth is still open?
Yeah,
Yes.
Ellsworth
Okay.
is open.
when is
We
Ellsworth?
have Shelter Rock done,
Yes, Guys is doing Shelter Rock.
and South Street.
And Guys is doing
Okay,
South
you
Street.
need Ellsworth?
No,
Ellsworth.
no, everybody's not.
has no one.
Mr. Foley's not doing anything.
Oh.
So Mr. Foley is going to do it, and if he's not doing it, I'll do it, because I won't be doing it.
Ellsworth?
Elsewhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Then we got them all.
So we're covered. Got it? Because if you don't come to a meeting, business or no business, you got everything else. What? Is Jody, has Jody lost her mind yet?
See the head, Tracy, nodding.
Just give her the list.
I'll give it to them.
Okay, good. All right.
All right.
All right, okay, so I think we're covered. Hold on, is that it? And there is no executive session.
We don't need them.
Thank God. There you go. Sal
To make a
just wants
motion
write
to
it down.
Yeah, just did.
It's been done quick.
All in favor? Aye. We're out of here, let's go.
By the way, the reason why this is live is he's putting it on the internet.
Which he does every
Going on
meeting.
YouTube.
That's what it is, yeah.
Is that, excuse me, guys?